Recently, I wrote an article about an important milestone in the inland shipping industry, the installation of the first augmented autonomy navigation system on a commercial vessel operating on the Mississippi River. Today, I'm joined by Geoff Douglass, co-founder and CEO of Mythos AI, a company whose team has decades of experience developing self-driving technology for some of the largest commercial and government organizations in the world, including a program of record for the US Navy. The Mythos AI team has commissioned over 40 unique autonomous and unmanned marine craft and deployed a cloud-based maritime autonomy framework designed to reduce human error in navigation. Their mission is to foster healthy ports, keep global commerce moving efficiently, and help steer the maritime sector toward a more sustainable and resilient future. Geoff, thank you for joining us and congratulations on your first success with this deployment on the Mississippi River.
Thank you very much.
For those who might not know Mythos AI yet, can you share the story behind the company and what problem you set out to solve?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. So Mythos is a unique company in our space. The founders met 15 years ago developing autonomy for the US Navy. Then most of the team went off into the self-driving car industry and really learned from an industry that is many decades ahead of the capabilities of the maritime industry and the skill sets that it has on developing this type of technology. And then we basically came back into the maritime space to solve some of the big inherent problems that the industry has. And mainly, though shipping is a very efficient way of moving goods around, it is actually still relatively inefficient. In terms of the duty cycles of the ships aren't particularly high. There's a lot of reasons for this. But in general, shipping is a relatively more or less a reactive industry than a proactive industry when it comes to navigation, moving things around. It's not uncommon for ships to arrive at the mouth of ports and then wait for long durations, or in the case of the Mississippi, it's not uncommon for vessels to go hundreds of miles up the Mississippi River, realize it's too shallow or the weather conditions have changed and have to turn back. So these are inherent inefficiencies with just the operations of moving vessels. And a big issue here is affiliated with when you have all these edge conditions in the environment, like it's hard. So getting crew and captains up to speed on all these different navigational regions around the globe, areas, how do you move these vessels, it takes a lot of time. And so a lot of this has to do with the fact that ships today, the electronics on ships, they more or less just display information that's there for people to interpret. Whereas what Mythos set out to do was, why don't we take information and actually start using it to make decisions to aid the mariners? Why don't we capture the knowledge of mariners as they experience edge conditions? Why don't we use that knowledge to then get less experienced or younger crews effectively up to speed faster, so that we can kind of build a more resilient operations for our customers. So that's what this is really all about. Leveraging technology to retain the experience of the industry so that we can maintain efficient and resilient operations.
I see. And the Mississippi River is such an iconic but also challenging waterway. How did it become the natural first location for deploying your technology?
Well, that's the exact reason, is because it is challenging. So when you're developing autonomy, you don't want to be in open water. You don't want to be in protected areas. You want to be in the very, very hard areas. You need these types of technologies when it matters the most, when things get hard, to aid in navigation. And so to do that, you want to throw them into the hardest environments and gain all of that data to be training your systems. And so the Mississippi River is a perfect use case for that. It's an incredibly dynamic waterway. It is also an incredibly vital waterway, especially in the United States, for exports. And so it's the perfect place to be training autonomy. And as we train it there, it becomes more and more easy to move to other locations and regions because it's such a complex environment. It's cluttered. The environment changes quickly. There's shoaling. There's bad weather. There's different size vessels. There's a lot of bends and turns. It's a very challenging waterway. So it's a perfect breeding ground for this type of technology.
Yeah, that makes perfectly sense. And what exactly does the advanced pilot assist system do, and what are the core technologies behind it?
So at the end of the day, advanced pilot assist is effectively learning the behaviors of the vessel that is installed on, characterizing them, and then using these characterizations to aid the captains and crews in how to safely navigate them. It also has a layer of situational awareness where the system can track targets. Like in the Mississippi River, it's not uncommon for there to be large debris moving down the river, for channel markers to be dragged from one area into the middle. Our system can detect these anomalies as well as fast-moving vessels or large vessels. It can classify them as what they are and then suggest to the captain and crew, based on the motion models of the vessel, what a safe operating procedure would be to avoid these things. So Pilot Assist System 1 makes pilots aware of situations they might not be aware of out in the environment, but 2 can also assist them in what they need to do to safely avoid it. And the system can sometimes react or suggest things faster than a captain or crew can. And this is especially true in marginal conditions like rain, at night, in the fog. This is when these systems really shine.
Cool. And how does your approach to autonomy differ from other players in the maritime navigation technology?
Yeah, good question. I'd say that one of the big differentiators is that Mythos is already navigating autonomously. So not on this specific pilot project, but we have our own vessels that we drive around 100% autonomously. And we drive them around the busy shipping ports all over the country. We put them in the middle of the Houston-Galveston ship channel. We recently completed 800 miles of fully autonomous navigation in the Houston-Galveston ship channel. We go in the Mississippi River. We travel to ports around the East Coast and West Coast. So we have effectively already everything we need to navigate autonomously. And we have Coast Guard approval to do so on our vessels. And so one big difference we have is that we're not starting with unmanned systems and then trying to make them autonomous. We're starting on manned systems. We're learning and capturing the knowledge of humans, and then we're using that to augment the vessel navigation. And it's a big differentiator because we learn how the waterways work. For instance, in the Mississippi River, COLREGS is relatively out the window. It's such a constrained channel that it's all radio calls. So if you think you're going to develop autonomy based on COLREGS or a pilot assist system in the Mississippi River, it's not necessarily how that river behaves, right? So we move around and we really learn and characterize and develop the technology around the individual waterways in which these vessels operate.
Wow.
And I'll say we also have autonomy. Like, it exists today. We have over 15,000 COLREG-compliant interactions under our belt in the world's busiest waterways.
That's very impressive. And what kind of data input and sensors are you using to handle the challenges? What you already mentioned, like shifting the channel's debris and the unpredictable river conditions.
Yeah, so in terms of shifting shoaling, we have our own technology that we go out into the ports, and we actually provide services to the ports where we capture the data. We can chronicle it over time and begin to understand how it shifts over time. Literally, how are the tugs moving the sedimentation around the berths and the harbors? How is the weather affecting? What's the natural aggression of these of this sediment around these port environments? And so we can start to characterize that and make it available to our customers, right? So it does inform navigation. And then otherwise, what our system does is so the main perception system uses radar, the ENC charts, uses camera. AIS is not very helpful in these types of situations, except for long distances. It's actually it induces a lot of error into an autonomy and a navigation system because of slow update rates, and a lot of people input false data into them. So systems that depend on AIS we have found are not very reliable. But then our system also lives on these ships, and it begins to learn the dynamics of these vessels. So how does this vessel perform in any given environment? And over time, our system can say, hey, to alter heading and speed right now is taking more rudder input and more propulsion input than it typically does. Therefore, we are in a different type of situation, right? Either there's an issue, or if we can characterize it over time or whatever, while it's happening, we can say, hey, we're in a current, we're in a wind condition. We have to now change how we operate this vessel. And this is really important in places like the Mississippi River, where there can be eddies, there can be currents, tows are trying to take these big bends. We can say, hey, the vessel is now requiring this much force to maneuver. We have to adjust what our planning distances are as we make these maneuvers. And so the system can learn, one, from the operators and how they take the maneuvers, but two, it literally learns how these vessels operate and then can aid operators as environments change.
Can you walk us through a real journey with your system on board? So where does it take over and how does it support the
Yeah.
crew?
So I could talk about this in terms of a pilot. So let's say we're traveling the Mississippi River, and it is, even on a clear day, we're taking a bend in the river, and we have a tow that has multiple barges in front of it. And the captains need to, well ahead of time, understand when they're going to start taking the turns in these rivers. Sometimes they're looking ahead a mile, 3/4 of a mile before they start taking the turn. Our system can understand, based on what the performance of the vessel is in these moments, when they need to begin taking these turns. Hey, at this speed, you need to start turning now. If you want to slow down, you can turn later. Hey, you've exceeded when you needed to turn. You are now getting in a situation where you may be in an accident, right? And our system can alarm and warn along the way. And this is also true as we approach locks and dams. Coming up on a lock or a dam, hey, in this environment, in this situation, you're coming in too fast. You will not be able to stop. And our system at this point, where we're going with the pilots, is that will be where the autonomy eventually kicks in. It will be in the like avoid an accident right now situation, where the physics of the vehicle are literally being exceeded, and the system has to kick in to prevent an accident. So that's where this is all going on the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
But also just on normal navigation in fog or in rain, when visibility is very low, our system will track other things that are in the waterway and make the things that a captain cares about that might be something they have an interaction with. It'll make those obvious to them, bring them front and center to them, so they know that they have to avoid them or pay attention to them.
Mm. Have you seen already a measurable impact in safety, efficiency, or decision making since installation? But it's early, I guess.
A little early for the shipping stuff. Because we have self-driving, our technology is scaling very quickly in unmanned systems, and there we see huge gains because we have truly COLREG-compliant autonomous navigation in very busy and cluttered environments. Typically, unmanned systems require a lot of oversight. They need to be guided out to protected waters. One unmanned system can require more crew than a manned vessel. Our technology is changing the narrative there, where now you can have less unmanned systems. More unmanned systems with less crew to guide them through the waterways. So on the unmanned side, already we're seeing massive efficiency gains due to our technology. I will say this pilot is new, and in the way our system works, we get in, our system begins to learn, characterize, we collect the performance metrics of the vessels we're installed in, and then we begin to layer in the decision making to aid the captains and crew. So we're just starting that journey now.
Excellent. Who are your target customer at this stage, and what's the value proposition you present to them?
Yeah, so the value proposition for us at this, well, let's say our target at this stage are vessel owner operators. So just like Southern Duval and our other partner Lomar, these are companies that own ships. They also operate ships, and so they want to increase the safety. They want to retain the knowledge of their captains and crews so that they can maintain steady operations. And so they're our core audience. The value for them is, one, right off the bat, it's safety. So our system, our situation awareness system, it aids in tracking targets that could be a problem. It informs not just the captains on the ships, but also can send notes home. So, hey, this was an incident. This broke navigational compliance. You need to be aware of it. So that's what it does right now. But what it's doing is it's capturing and retaining the knowledge of the mariners that are operating and the waterways in which they operate. And what this does is it allows the companies to get more crew on more up to speed in more environments on more vessels more quickly. And this comes down to resilient operations. So the workforce shortage is a big problem right now. How do we maintain operations? How do we scale our businesses? And that is about basically if we can start to reduce the stress and effectively not remove the skill, but aid mariners so they can get up to speed faster, trained faster at navigating these vessels. That is the inevitable value proposition of autonomy in this stage for the commercial industry.
Okay. What's next on your roadmap? Expanding to other rivers, coastal operations, international projects, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are now, our technology is installed on tanker ships that are international. So we're already collecting data in Europe, in the Mediterranean. We are collecting data up and down the Mississippi, all over Texas waters. We've collected data all over the United States with our other projects. And so effectively what we're doing is we're scaling out, we're putting our technology on more and more ships. And as we put our technology on more and more ships, we're effectively creating the brain of navigation globally. And so we're beginning to digitize the way the logic of mariners and the way that this can tie into overall operations for these customers. So the roadmap kind of scales very organically, but it's a function of getting the data and training the data.
Hmm. What excites you most about the future of autonomy in inland and maritime shipping?
I think what excites me the most about it is its prospect of, which is why we got into this. It's really about decarbonizing. So because shipping is so reactive right now, because the data inputs that captains see from their electronics are really just that, just data. They don't help in decision making. Shipping is very hard, and you have again the duty cycles of ships is relatively low. In some instances, like 50% of the time, a ship is actually doing something efficient. Autonomy comes in to increase that duty cycle of the ships. If we can be more proactive, if we understand the waterways ahead of time, if we can inform the fleet, then we can increase that duty cycle of these ships. If we can increase the duty cycle of the ships, new fuels become more attainable. Like one issue shipping has with decarbonizing is that the ships operate at such low duty cycles that they really require cheap fuels to be to have any to have a business model. They have to burn cheap fuels. And so that makes adopting new fuels a hurdle for them. But if we can increase the duty cycles, there's less waste in the fuel, then we can usher in and make it easier for these new fuels to be adopted more quickly. And so that is where I see, that's what I'm excited about for the technology. I believe you can't get to things like on-time shipping without it. And I believe without on-time shipping and that level of efficiency, I don't think new fuels will be able to be adopted at the rate in which we need them to.
Finally, if you imagine inland shipping 5 years from now, so what role do you hope Mythos AI will play in shaping it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, in 5 years, Mythos will be, I mean, within the next year or two, Mythos will be installed on hundreds, if not thousands, of vessels traveling the Mississippi River. Um, and effectively, we'll be collecting all of the environmental data. We'll know how each individual vessel in an interaction will understand what their performance is, what their reaction times are, not just a radar blip, but actually like how do these two vessels actually interact with each other. We'll begin to create something that becomes an intelligent river system. So think of it as like the ways of shipping. That's what we're effectively delivering, where we can characterize the environment. So when people are planning shipments, we know ahead of time how they should be scheduling things. But also on a vessel to vessel interaction level, we'll understand what safe procedures really are. And that will also increase the efficiency of the river because we won't need to be doing um, overly protective maneuvers. We can be doing, maneuvers that are appropriate for the situation. Um, and that's really what I'm excited about. That's where I see the next 5 years. I really see the Mississippi River turning into something that looks more like a consistent conveyor belt of goods moving than kind of a system today where there's a lot of stop and go because of the uncertainties associated with the environment we're operating in.
Yeah, amazing outlook. Thank you for sharing these insights with us, and thanks so much for taking the time speaking with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much.